call the recording in progress meeting. Thank you, Mary. We'll call the order of the NMCOG meeting of August 17th at 7 p.m. We have folks both in person and remote, so we'll take a roll call for attendance.
Andrew DeLaurier,
Here.
Chris Trevo,
Here.
Mary McBride,
Here.
Pat Locus,
Here.
Paul McDougall, George Saurulis,
Here.
Allison Jenkins, Phil Tebow,
Here.
Karen Meehan,
Here.
Danny Hart,
Here.
Jerry Frechette,
Here.
Jack Walkovich, Joyce Morrow,
Here.
Steve Bemelis,
Yeah.
Jane Wellman,
Here.
Jim Duffy,
Here.
Ron Cohen, Stephen O'Neill, Katarina Kalabokis, Anita Tonakarn Wentz, Darren Weiss,
Here.
Jim Silva, and Paul, I see you just joined us, Paul McDougall.
He's here.
He's here.
Muted.
We'll answer phone.
That's here. All right, first, with the meeting minutes of June 15th. Don't have any revisions or anything like that.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Steve,
Second.
second by Jerry.
Andrew DeLaurier,
Aye.
Chris Trevo,
Abstain.
Mary McBride,
Here.
Pat Locus,
Aye.
Paul McDougall, George Saurulis,
I don't vote.
Phil Tebow,
Yes.
Karen Meehan,
Yes.
Dan Rourke,
Yes.
Jerry Frechette,
Aye.
Joyce Morrow,
Abstain.
Steve Bemelis,
Yes.
Jane Wellman,
Abstain.
Jim Duffy,
Yes.
Darren Weiss.
Abstain. We have enough folks there.
We do. And two from Chelmsford and Paul is unmuted.
I think I unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm driving, so.
That's it. Next, we have the financial report and warrant. First.
So we have $1,055,554 in our bank account. Another $304,000 in the OPEB restricted cash account. I'm anticipating receivable of $162,120, and we still have one member settlement outstanding. Total accounts receivable is $165,915. Leaving a net cash total including receivables of $221,869. I presented checks to Gary for signature on Monday for $6,420. Anticipate another $42,341 in accounts payable between now and the next time we meet. We have 3 payroll between now and the next time we meet. So that will give us a total warrant of $144,761. Net cash total, including receivables less accounts payable, is $1,077,109. Other outstanding obligations of $231,602, leaving a net cash total less other outstanding payables that become $45,506.
Any questions for Bert?
So who's the delinquent
Yeah.
community? Yep.
I should know that.
Oh,
Small.
convenient for. Right.
Politically correct.
I'm gonna go with not low about it.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want to just mention the audit that we're starting?
Sure. We had Justin, myself, and Jenny had a meeting with the auditors yesterday, a Zoom meeting. The field work, I have some things that I have to get to them by the end of the month, and the field work is probably gonna start on October 10th. And we'd like to try and wrap it up by the end of November, which would be a record, at least for what, as long as I've been here. We've been issued in March. Nice, the financial statements early, so I can start working on the general statement. I think that's fine.
And it's still answers.
It's still in, at least for this year and next, year, and after that, it goes on big. Thanks.
The last time we went out to bid, they were the only ones that bid on.
They were, yep.
Yeah, we sent them out with, I think I sent them out to 8, if I remember correctly. No, we didn't respond to the answer.
In fact, they don't want to step on each other's toes. to be
Exactly.
honest with you, Yeah.
Professional courtesy.
Yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the, budget.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Approve the financial warrant.
Andrew Deloria,
Aye.
Chris Trevo,
Aye.
Pat Wojcik.
Aye.
Paul McDougall.
Aye.
Bill Tebow,
Yes.
Mary Meehan,
Aye.
Dan Rohr. Jerry Burchett,
Aye.
Joyce Morrow,
Jane.
Steve Emelis,
Aye.
Jane Wellman,
Aye.
Jim Duffy,
Aye.
Darren Weeks.
Aye.
Next, we have the first executive director report from Joyce.
Thank you. Well, hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. Thank you for being here tonight. I prepared a report for you that gives an overview of a variety of activities happening in the agency. It's really meant to stand as an update on different milestones, the different types of work that we're doing, and some upcoming things to keep in mind, including planning or different public meetings that are happening or grant or funding opportunities. So it's a little bit different than the executive director reports that you've had in the past. And so I want to see what you think about this. And for now, I thought I would just share some of the highlights and see if you have any questions about specific projects. There are staff participating who are leads doing a lot of that work. So if you have a specific question, we should be able to get an answer. So with that in mind, I think I wanted to call to your attention that we are embarking on an update to the regional long-range transportation plan, which is headed up by Justin, of course. And it would be hopefully completed in the spring of next year, but it will be an in-depth process to update that plan. And it is really important for your communities to participate in that process because as Justin and I have been learning by traveling around to your communities and meeting with you, transportation is a really important issue, and getting a project listed on the transportation improvement program list means that you need to also have it noted in the regional transportation plan in some manner. So there's a real direct connection to that regional planning process and your local planning projects. So you probably participated in that, planning process in the past, but we are going to be looking at updating our community engagement techniques and planning with the intention of not just better engaging in our region, but also doing some cross engagement with Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, who's also in the midst of updating the regional plan. Similarly, we're updating the SEDS annual plan, and then that will eventually lead to a 5-year update. This is being headed up by Chris Hayes, who's you can't see your photo, but he's participating as well. You can wave. There he is waving. Hi, Chris. Thanks for being here. And with the said, again, this is a broader document, but it is important and we want it to be actionable. So over the next year, there's some very clear things that we're looking to get out of that. And between Chris and I, as well as Jeff Owen, we've been trying to listen to different business leaders in all of our communities to get a sense of what those priorities may be. It's also helping us to refine the economic recovery and resiliency plan, which is a document that will come before you next month at your meeting to basically review and give us any feedback and hopefully agree that it is a reasonable plan for moving forward. The other thing I wanted to mention is that because David Ryder, who was our environmental planner, left the agency in May, we've been in a process for hiring a transportation planner and a sustainability planner. We've renamed the position. But in the absence of having that person, I have been working to try to maintain momentum in the categories related to environmental planning. So one of those things, and it seems to be pretty popular, is the Northern Middlesex Stormwater Collaborative. And Katrina is helping to assemble the next meeting. They've met quarterly and here at our office, but we're going to provide a hybrid option. So hopefully folks in your communities are participating, but also if you have an interest in joining in any of these efforts, please, of course, let me know. The regional energy planning assistance that we do with your communities is also possibly of interest. That includes everything from helping with your green communities reporting, tracking and monitoring with Mass Energy Insight on the dashboard, and doing a lot of coordination with the Department of Energy Resources. And we'll be planning a regional energy workshop some point in the future. Don't know when.
That's awesome.
Because it looks like it'll probably be October. But with all that in mind, in order to get to that point, we need to have some training needs survey. And so I'm hoping that I can rely on all of you to help me get the word out, to get a sense of what kind of needs you have in terms of training around clean energy. And then just sort of moving forward, there's a lot of project work that we do in communities around zoning amendments and helping with preparation of local plans, but I wanted to highlight a couple of them that I think are really important to celebrate first, which is the Westford Housing Production Plan, which is wrapping up. And thanks to Chris Hayes' efforts in getting that done, we have a meeting with a vote coming up. Actually, that's coming up this week with the Affordable Housing Committee, and hoping that that then moves along with a recommendation to be voted on and adopted by the planning board, and then of course the local select board. And that's really important to just acknowledge the work of a plan that has been in progress for some time, and with a lot of really great community input, we're finally able to get that wrapped up. On the other end of the spectrum, we're starting a plan with Lowell, and we're just starting those conversations with staff to make sure we've got the scope of work shaped up. But I think that that's a really exciting opportunity working with Lowell on their housing issues. Some of those things have come up really in all of the communities we've spoken with. It's housing affordability and availability. And then the other thing I wanted to spotlight is that Pepperell we've been doing a bunch of work with Pepperell. And one of the things that I think is worth noting is that heading to town meeting this fall is a 40R zoning district proposal. And I'm glad to answer questions about that as well. So it's something exciting that we've completed that's moving on to another milestone step. In the category of GIS and data sharing, something to note is that we've completed the migration of the traffic counting data to an accessible app on both iPads and smartphones, and that makes things a lot easier for our staff and team who work on this kind of counting data. And it also makes things more accurate, of course, for our tracking. And as noted here, it saves a lot of staff time, hours, probably headaches, culling through data. The other thing is just to note is that, and this is all headed up by Carlin, who is just does such amazing work with GIS. That's been the feedback from all of your communities, just how valuable he is an asset to all of the communities on GIS, but he's also been a really big asset here on IT. Some of you may or may not know that, but he helps us quite a bit with IT support. And so several things have been updated as a result of his leadership. And then the last thing I wanted to note, there's some funding updates here that I mentioned, nothing's official yet. Other upcoming opportunities also just again in the sort of possibility column. But one thing I wanted to call to your attention is something that we talked about when you were interviewing me, which is the need to embark on a strategic planning exercise. And so I have a proposal in my report this month to you, which would be following the election of officers sometime in the fall. Embarking on some sort of strategic planning exercise, which could be a subcommittee of this group, which could be the officers, to get basically a sense of direction on both planning and programming of the organization. This would be a series of potential retreats, interviews, data collection, and ultimately culminate in a strategic planning exercise, not just for this group around the table, but for others in our communities in our region, as well as our staff, very importantly. So I'm excited to talk about all of these things and answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Ben? I'm gonna read the report here.
I just comment, what I like about the executive director's report is, when we got used to what was really geared towards the agenda and what was on the agenda, but this is really, talking about bigger picture of things that we're working on beyond the agenda for tonight. So I thought it was very helpful.
Any questions? Any online? No, first one about Dave, so you
Really good.
next is community exchange, which I think took the place of community reports in the format. Anyone have anything to report on?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Steve Thumelis. Just want to introduce Joyce Morrow. She's from the planning board, and she's also, Development Advisory Committee clerk, and she's a new council member to the committee here. And she's wicked smart and comes from the corporate world. And I've worked with Joyce for the last 2 or 3 years, so I'm just proud to have her on as a committee member, council member.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. I thank a lot of NMCOG. We worked with Beverly Woods for our master plan. I was on the master plan committee as well. I'm now on the planning board, and I have been with Stephen in the Economic Development Advisory Committee for the past several years as well. So I'm very much interested in working with NMCOG. My past experience, I was with a company that was called Adjourn International, which then recently got bought out by Ramble, which is a Nordic company of 15,000 doing sustainable living and many other environmental type of activities. And I've been retired for the past 3 years, although I'm not really retired because I've worked harder for the town than I even worked in all jobs.
That's how it works.
I also spent 25 years at Arthur D. Little in Cambridge. And so I have a background in consulting. Mostly, I was always state of the art in technology. And so I'm trying to keep some sort of intellectual. And I know NMCOG will broaden my horizons as well. So thank you very much for welcoming me. I appreciate it.
I actually worked for an RTD little spin out at one point in my career, so I'll speak to your pedigree there.
Was that TIAC?
No, Decision Resources.
Oh, yes. Well, I worked at Decision Resources when I first started with ADL. At that time, it was called ADL Impact Securities.
Obviously, you're a fantastic person.
Right.
And Steve, which speaks highly. So, any other community reports of past acquaintances of mine to introduce?
Right, I have a couple
Please.
from Tewksbury, Jane from Tewksbury. So we have a few exciting things going on in town. We have our $98.5 million elementary school project is planned to open in January. A few snags, but a couple little ones, and it's on time and under budget so far.
Kind of wolves, yeah.
Yeah, well, no, we have a little bit of a different scale issue. So we have, because of that project, we have 2 school properties that are going to be vacant, and so we're trying to figure out what we're going to be doing with that. That is a coming debate, how to reuse that space. So that is a coming attraction. There's the open space, reusing the building, knocking the building down. We'll probably talk some more about it.
Yes.
Yeah. We have coming up on our October special town meeting, an initiative for a new DPW and combined school facilities building, which is going to be in the $26 million range that will be funded within our levy limit. And really pushing our manager to push the Weston and Sampson to make it a net zero building or get close to net zero in the design. So it's got some green design, but I really want to push that. And so we'll see if we fund it, then we'll get some more in the design area for that. I want to thank you folks and Chris for coming to our meeting last week for our housing production plan. I'm excited about that project getting done. And I don't think it was Chris that came.
Christmas, yeah,
It's Christine's.
yeah,
But it was Chris.
yeah.
You look different on camera
There's two
than in
Christmases.
person.
Yeah.
You look different on camera. Anyway, so good to have them come. I was excited to hear more about that program. And it's gonna come in right on time in December with when we have our reuse recommendation get done. And then it's all gonna get handed to the select board. So I'm excited about the timing on that. And then we also have a zoning bylaw article coming up that I'm pushing for EV infrastructure in our multifamily parcel development projects. Yeah, you didn't know about that?
I
Coming attraction?
believe I did.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. The other one? Chris, guys?
Yeah, so, I mean, basically, we've been on the zoning bylaw review committee, we're gonna probably we're just going over some cleanup of definitions of the zoning, and then eventually we're gonna probably go with Erica. Our planner is thinking of maybe actually getting someone to come in to do a much more comprehensive review of the overall zoning. But that might be a future town meeting. You know, the mall project in town seems to be getting underway there, so that's the thing there. And then didn't State Senator Cindy Friedman, didn't she just secure that bond there? Was it for the town center or something like that?
Yeah.
So-
Dirty work, yeah.
So I'm interested, I mean, that was some hearing about the center there, so I'll be interested, because didn't the preliminary warrant come out? You
Yep.
guys go over that like Monday, right?
We did.
Yeah, I was, so that was, is that in there, or is that? All right, cool. So.
No, so just to tack out the word, so we have our Boston Road North project, if you're familiar with the Boston Road South, but this was the center down in Burlington. So that's being kicked off by the state in terms of like sort of period Victorian last varying utilities, more adding bike lanes, and is to reorganize the center, as well as this would be the second attempt in my career to do this. The first one was successful and then unsuccessful. So we'll try it again. Not one to learn my lesson. And the other two things, we have our Pelican River Complex, which is with the Boys and Girls Club. We're redesigning that entire area, adding 3 new turf fields and 3 more softball fields, and expanding additional areas. We are considering other thing that's going to be completed in October, which is 3 months ahead of schedule. So we're excited about that, and lacrosse particularly excited about that. And then the House School, which is a historic high school in Florida, has been that project will be coming down prior to that. Prior to the beginning of winter, and BATV, our public access trail, we're moving over there. So with all these historic buildings, they look nice, but they have to have life in them when they die. So we're bringing life to that. So a lot of good things going on, which is exciting. Next to funding going on. Anything else?
In Westford, we have our annual strategic planning retreat coming up in September. The first one in person since COVID, so we have it at Kimball's. It's a combination of staff and giving updates to folks in town, but getting input from residents as well on different projects. You know, kind of things that are up in the air, kind of getting input from the town on the best direction to take on some certain projects. So looking forward to that in September.
Smart having a Kimball, so that people show up no matter what.
Get free ice cream.
You get a lot done. It's wonderful.
Exactly. They should look good. That's the draw.
Anything else? Thanks. To reminders and announcements.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, please.
Yes, Steve. Just a reminder to the council, elections for new officers will be in September next month for 2022, 2023. And that the nomination forms were mailed out, obviously, back in July, and they had to be returned back, I think, a couple of weeks ago in August. But, you know, we'll be reaching out to the nominees in upcoming weeks, me and Ray McBride. And also we'll have nominations allowed from the floor when the time comes in September. But we'll make some calls and we'll be ready for us to make that decision next month.
Any other reminders? Okay.
Oh, okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I have two actually more like announcements.
Okay, that's also covered.
Is that okay? Sorry, great. Like when it's covering two things. The first one is maybe some of you received this as members of your select boards or from your town administrator or city manager, town manager, but the community compact cabinet program is open. It opened on August 15th. And if you need assistance on filing any applications, it's actually a rolling application. It's open, it's rolling. You can designate a specific area under the community compact. There are areas where they're looking at specific best practices in this coming year. One is the IT grant program. The other is efficiency and regionalization grants. And then the last one is municipal fiber grants. So if you are interested in applying or you need any assistance with that, please feel free to reach out to me. That you need to get that done, or if you haven't already designated that in your community compact. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is an email that I forwarded to you about the MBTA communities, which I know is not applicable to everybody, but for those of you who it is relevant to, Chris Hayes and I will be meeting with communities to start talking about scopes of work. We've already started a little bit of that work, and there will just be additional follow-up. But in the meantime, there was something that when I sent that email that I hope I called your attention to, which is the training, that it's an upcoming webinar on September 8th at 1 p.m. There's a link that I sent in that email, and I would encourage you or others in your communities to, if this is something important to you, to sign up and participate in that webinar. And yeah, glad to answer any questions about that, but I just wanted to make sure that email was sort of up in your mind, and if you needed to forward it to anybody in your communities, I was looking for that information to please do so.
Well, I'll admit it. Thank you for pointing that out, because it didn't stick in my head.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure,
Yeah,
it was like a lot of emails that particular, like
Yeah,
3-day
thank you.
period from our office, so.
When was the time for the webinar? It's September 8th.
September 8th at 1 p.m.
1 p.m.
And it's actually, there's a link to that at MBTA communities on the DHCD website.
Okay.
So you can directly register with the Zoom webinar.
And thank you for the details regarding the communities, because I was just looking over the final, because they did did they do the final draft guidelines, like
The
what?
final guidelines were issued,
Oh,
yeah,
August, what, 9th? or
Whatever else, yeah.
last week, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and I mean, that would be a good starting place too, is if you can't attend the webinar, just reading the guidelines. I'm glad to have a conversation about this as an agenda item in a future meeting. When it seems a little bit more relevant, and people are kind of up to speed. Chris and I can follow up on that and figure out what makes the most sense and when.
I think that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
I do know the worker was reclassified as commuter rail community, so.
Yes, Barb.
Yeah.
Yes.
They eliminated the bus.
Eliminated.
Yes, the
Yeah.
bus doesn't come to the worker. Yeah.
Buses in general.
Just the buses. There's only two.
We're surrounded.
So yes, I'm glad to answer any questions. Of course, again, if you have one directly that you wanted to engage me on, I'm glad to talk about that, or if you need any other resources. Chris or I can follow up.
Maybe Oh, Jenny, maybe a good idea to put that as an agenda item for next month, so we can maybe go back and discuss that. Because we'll be after that webinar, the 8th, so just a suggestion, that's all.
Darren, Jeff.
I'm just curious, with the new updates, did they get rid of the bus?
Right.
Designation?
Yeah.
It's not on there.
And Westford is no longer.
It's a commuter rail, then it's a bus.
Yeah, basically only
Oh,
Lowell
there's good.
Lowell and Millbrook are only,
Yeah, you have special meetings.
Yes,
only,
okay.
only, yeah, only Lowell and Pepperell and Dunstable are not part of the MBTA study.
We have bikes in Pepperell.
Thank you for doing that. For those cowards. We do appreciate it.
I think Steve's on the buggy guy.
You'll be required to have a house every 2 acres.
Thanks a lot.
Any other,
Actually, I was the first president of Pepperell's Horse Owners Association. The equine community to bring back the horses, and urban footprint, and they drop fertilizer wherever they go. So I'm what could you ask for?
Best of both worlds.
Someone said the same of town politicians, but here we go.
Wow.
Piled higher and deeper.
How about state and federal?
That's an order of magnitude. Any other announcements or reminders? Don't forget that. That's important. So next we have the date of the next council meeting, which is September 21st. This first time that's already an agenda item. Mark your calendars accordingly. And then we have the date of the annual meeting, October 19th. Hey, do you want to talk about this at all?
Sure. We're largely responsible for helping with the planning and the logistics for that, as you may or may not know. Trina plays a very important role in helping with a lot of our planning and logistics and administrative support for all of the council work. And we thank her for that greatly. And so with that in mind, we've been looking at alternatives about what to do. Because we looked at the budget, we looked at the options, and we're looking now at UTEC as the space where we're going to have our event. It'll be less of a dinner and more of a meeting, which is why it says meeting. And it'll be hors d'oeuvres, so there will be something to eat. You won't be, hangry the whole time. Please eat so you aren't hangry. And then there will probably be something like a cash bar. We're kind of looking at the options. We're still also thinking about who should be the speaker. And so Andrew and I have talked about that. Anita is also helping with preparation for this as well. If you have any other suggestions or things that you want to put on the annual meeting agenda, please feel free to reach out to me. But it is really, it's going to be, of course, a time to celebrate the work of the organization over the past year, which will look maybe different because we haven't had an in-person meeting since I understand 2019. And I don't know if there's anything else to add. Katrina?
No, that's it. We are looking into theaters on line of small business women. Have any that are your favorites and that's our usual go-to.
It's gonna be a UTEC to do it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
That's the other, we do have their menu. That's a possible option.
So I have a question. Will it be the usual invitations to the town administrators and past members and all
Yes.
that? Okay.
All of the same with the invite list. And so we're looking at that list. We're going to send out an email reminder rather than like a card or something that had been sent previously. We'll do a lot of follow-up to make sure that we have people attending. We're also going to make it as easy, as affordable as possible so that many people can attend and engage. And try to bring a lot of people in. And just to build off of that point, in the meetings that I've been having in the business community and with leaders throughout the region so far, a lot of the feedback is that people really want to engage with this organization. They're very invigorated by new people being part of the organization and want to be part of the work that we're doing. And so I think that that's a really, an annual meeting coming up, that's always a good time to have new people see who we are and keep people up to date on what we're doing, and of course, hopefully have them engage in future activities. So the thinking of having it at that location and also engaging women-owned businesses, BIPOC community potentially, we thought that that would also be a good opportunity to do things a little bit differently. Maybe not the way that they've been done before, but in a manner that tries to bring in as many people and voices as possible into that meeting. So that's the annual meeting, and thanks to Katrina for her efforts helping to move it forward.
Will some of the folks being invited include like community groups, like community teamwork? Other,
I think they're on our list. Yeah, we have a pretty deep.
I don't remember the dependent impact. It was so long ago.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on this? That is the last opportunity. Any other business not known? Which is, if you don't know it, I'm not sure you know that. All right.
Can I just ask one question? I don't want to, Justin, there was the lease on this property. I think we renewed it for a year.
We have a one-year renewal that was signed. Yeah.
Right, so it's something that at some point.
Yeah.
Have to
And,
visit.
well, we were just talking about this.
This
That was our
afternoon.
pre-meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
We will be in a few months, we think is the right time to bring this back up. Probably have a couple members of the council talk about it in the meeting. And we will be probably having to look for a new office space, is my best guess. So we'll
yeah,
put that
I
as an
just
agenda.
didn't want to
talk
slip
about.
by and all of a sudden.
We're talking about
Yeah,
it.
we definitely won't let that slide.
They'll come to us.
Otherwise, we'll be back at the bunker.
They'll come.
We won't be back. I was never there, but I feel.
Oh, you got.
Those were the days. Those were the days. There's always plenty of park.
Yes. That's where I will be working in my car.
Covered. We could be there in the snow. This is fun.
We'll make that an agenda in a few months. Thank you for bringing
The other. All right. So with that, a motion to adjourn.
Second, I know, but I.
Yeah.
Moved by Dan, second by Jane, I will consider it unanimous. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
this.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.